my name is Daryl, and this is Programming in Any Language. We are working with C# right now, but the principles are the same in all languages. Master these principles, and you can easily jump to any other language quickly. The debugger. A logic error is a mistake that does not prevent an application from running, but causes the application to produce incorrect results. Mathematical mistakes, assigning a value to the wrong variable, or assigning the wrong value to a variable are examples of logic errors. Logic errors can be difficult to find. Back in the old days, programmers, myself included, added print statements to our code to let us know how far the program got before it crashed. In COBOL, seeing a 6-inch stack of paper get generated as a core dump was a nightly occurrence when I first worked as a computer operator. Today, Visual Studio, Python, Java, virtually all the most common programming languages have tools that make the debugging process easier. In Visual Studio, it's called the debugger. Let's examine this beast. When you write programs, things go wrong. And finding out what went wrong can be complicated. Using the debugger to locate logic errors is going to help you a lot. And the Microsoft Visual Studio comes with a very nice tool to do this, the debugger. A logic error is a mistake that does not prevent an application from running, but causes an application to produce incorrect results. You can have mathematical errors. You can assign a value to the wrong variable. You can assign the wrong value to a variable, and so on online. Finding and fixing logical errors usually requires a bit of detective work. Visual Studio provides debugging tools that will help making those logic errors easier. And it can be a little intimidating when you first look at the at Visual Studio's debugger, but there's only a couple buttons you got to use. I only use a few, and it works out very well for me. The key to solving the problems that go on in your program is basically setting up a breakpoint. What is a breakpoint? A breakpoint is finding a spot in the program to stop it, so then you can control it at your own speed. Computers, they run at the speed of light practically. You want to bring it down to human thought so you can kind of follow things that they're going along. So setting a breakpoint is basically putting a place in one of your lines of your source code where the program is going to stop. And when the application is running, it reaches that breakpoint and it'll pause and stop right there, allowing you to start to control it. It's called break mode, getting into it. While the application is paused, you may examine the variable contents, what's in them, and the values stored in certain control properties. They're really nice to use. What we're looking here is a breakpoint. Basically, you end up putting a dot somewhere right around here. And that's going to stop this program at this particular point. This line of code is not executed yet. You've got a number of variables up here, and this is going to give you a chance once you stop it to see what's in those variables. And it allows you to step through this thing and start to go through this line by line and see how these variables are changed as you're going through the program. This little picture right here shows us in break mode. We're examining the contents of a variable or control property. We hover the cursor over this thing, and you can see it's going to come up showing what's actually in that text box coming in. It hasn't put anything inside the variable yet, but you can see what it's trying to put in is a string 25 going into there. And we're going to double parse it, and we should see runner 1 become 25 when this line is executed. So we'd step through it. Once we step through this thing, got to the next line, we would see the contents of runner 1 in our program. There's a number of windows that you can look at to examine the contents of your data that's in the program. I only use one. I use the watch window primarily, but there's autos and locals, those kinds of things. The autos window displays a list of the variables appearing in the current statement, the 3 statements before and the 3 statements after the current statement. The current value of the data type of each variable are also displayed, so it can be handy perhaps in a large program. The locals window displays a list of all the variables in the current procedure, and the current value and the data type of each variable are also displayed. The watch window also allows you to add the names of variables you want to watch. This window displays only the variables you have added. This Visual Studio allows you to open multiple watch windows. I like this one the best because I can literally click on the variables I want to examine. I can click on all of them if you want and put them outside that watch window and then see those contents change as they go through that. You can open any of these windows by clicking on the debug on the menu bar and then selecting Windows and then selecting the window that you want to open. Very easy to do. This is a picture of that locals window showing the variables runner 1, 2, and 3 and the average sitting in there because with lines of code you've got in there. The local values and the current values of what they actually are. I don't use it much. I tend to like the watch window. Single stepping is what I do a lot of. Basically, what you're doing here is you're stepping through the program one line at a time as you go through this. And you're using the F11 key to actually do this. Visual Studio allows you to single step through an application's code once its execution has been paused by the breakpoint. This means that the application statements execute one at a time under your control. You control how fast you're going to go through this. After each statement executes, you can examine the variable and the property contents. This process allows you to identify the lines of code causing the error. Believe me, this saves tons of time. How do you single step? There's actually a number of different ways to do it. I tend to use the F11 key. I've worked with students that found that some people don't have the F11 key, so they have different ways of actually doing it. But what you can do is you can use the F11 key, or you can use the buttons on your screen right here as the step into, step over, stop debugging, all that kind of stuff is in here as well. Pressing the F11 key works though just fine, and also pressing the step over, step into is going to allow you to do that one line at a time too. But it means bringing down that menu. I'll show you this in a bit. But basically, all those things are there. There's virtually 3 ways to do anything on this thing, and that's what makes it complicated. There's so many different ways. We want to break it down just how you can do it. I tend to use the F5 key, the F11 key for most of my manipulations of going through it. I also will bring up the watch key to look at certain variables, and I'll show you that in a bit too. That's the debugger in a nutshell. Problem is, just reading about it doesn't give us that hands-on feeling we need to use it. The following is a mortgage application which works just fine. In fact, we'll learn to write a program like this fairly soon. But right now, let's use it as a tool to show off how the debugger actually works and what it can do for us. This is a mortgage calculator program. It basically allows you to enter in your mortgage amount, what's owed, and it'll calculate the monthly payment that you're going to have. It's actually going to calculate the amount that's coming off your monthly payment going directly to the mortgage. The rest is fees you'll be paying each month. Let's run it. Let's get an idea of what's going on, and we'll take a look at it from a debug standpoint. If we look at this thing, we bring it up. We've got, say we owe $70,000 on our mortgage. Monthly payment, say, is $400. We have a total escrow amount of, say, $99 for escrow, and our interest rate is, say, 3%. And let's calculate that out. If we calculate it out, it comes out that we're going to take $175 going to be paid in interest out of that $400 payment we've got up here. The amount applied to the mortgage will be $126 of that because we're paying $400. We've got some escrow coming out of that thing. We've got the interest coming out of that thing. So it leaves us only $126 coming out of the payment going on the mortgage itself. So the $126 coming off the $70,000 leaves you with $6,974, and that's what you owe on the mortgage after 1 month's payment. Very straightforward program. It'd be nice to see it go through month to month, but we're not there yet. So this is just going to show you those kinds of calculations. Now, what if we want to know how this is actually working, or say something didn't work right and we want to actually examine this? What we could do is we'll kill the program, and we will go into the code itself. In fact, we'll go to the calculate button. We'll go right down there and take a look at what we've got here. So if we jump to the calculate button, I'm going to actually increase this thing to 150% so we make that code look a little larger. Maybe we'll shrink it down a bit later. But we've got all our programs sitting right here. All the variables are sitting up in here in the global area. Here's our exit button, our form load, our button clear, here's our button calculate. Now let's say we want to stop the program in button calculate and start to investigate these variables. What we'll do is we'll set up a breakpoint. We can put one right here if we'd like. So we'll do that in our program. And there it comes. You get a little red dot coming on here, and it'll pop in there. And that means the program is going to stop at this point and allow us to go into the code and look at it. I'm going to let's go ahead and run this program now. We'll run the program, and we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll put in our $70,000, and what did I say for monthly payment? $400, something like that. And I said $99 for escrow, and it's an interest rate of what, 3%? I think I did say 3%. Once we hit the calculate button, the program stops dead, and it goes into this mode right here where it's actually looking at this. Now I've got a bunch of watch lists here. In my watch window, I can look at these different variables. How do you put these on? Let's get rid of one real quickly. New double amount. Let's we do monthly interest. Are they there? Let's make them larger so we can kind of see this stuff. And this is looking at our variables. And the way you put those things on here is you click on a variable like this one right here, right click on it, and you can add it to the watch. So by doing this, it'll jumps in there and I create another new amount owed. It's on here twice now. We'll get rid of one because we only need the one, so I'll just hit the delete key on here and get rid of it. So it allows all those variables to become to go on here. What I've got in here is I've even got the variables up in my global area. Double total amount owed, monthly payment, escrow, and interest rate, all sitting up in here. And then I've got the ones that are applied to my button right down in here. And right now, nothing's in them. You can see them sitting at 0. And I'm sitting at a stop mode at this point in time, so you're looking at the program being stopped. I'm going to go hit the F11 key. And once I do that, it jumps down to this line of code. It bypasses these because it already took them into place and says, okay, these are variables. And right now, nothing's in them. Click on F11 again, and it comes down to double amount total owed is going to be equal to double parse, whatever's in the text box. If I highlight the text box, you can see that $70,000 show up right there. That's what's going to get applied to this amount, and you'll see it pop up into here. So if I hit the F11 key, it jumps down and applies this thing, and you can see the $70,000 popping into here. So now I know what's going on. The escrow is going to be 99, which you see that pop up in double escrow. If we hit enter, our F11 key, we get a 99 popping in here. Double monthly payments, that's going to be a 400 popping in here, so we should see that in the monthly payment popping in, and no, that's the interest rate popping in first. That's right. That's okay. The 3's popping in there, and then here's our 400 coming in monthly payment, and that's going to pop up in there. So that's done that so far. So what we've done is we've gone through this and we've stepped through this thing one line at a time at our speed to make this thing work. So we're controlling what's actually happening here. Now we're going to do some math. You can see this is double. The monthly interest is going to be the double total amount owed, which happens to be, if I highlight it, it's 70,000 in there. The interest rate is sitting at a 3. We can see that. Divided by 100 and divided by the 12. So if we click on F11 key, it produces the monthly interest rate of 175. That actually gets calculated out. We're now going to create the double amount applied to principal. How much can we? Well, it's the monthly payment minus the escrow minus the monthly interest, I believe, which is 175. Yeah, monthly interest. The escrow is 99, and the monthly payment is 400. So all that's there. It's going to get applied when I hit F11, and it's going to get applied to this, and we're going to see 126 pop in here. Now we can go on further on down. We're going to go to applied amount of principal. Is going to be the new amount owed. Is the total amount owed, that 70,000, minus the amount applied to principal, the 126. We click F11 on that thing. It calculates this out to 69874. Pops it in here as a double, and now it goes in and applies these things using currency to format the data and go into these labels. Once it does that, it comes out, finishes. We don't do the catch because we didn't have to. Everything was right in here. And we pop out here, and up we go, and we get our answers coming out of this thing. Let's do that one more time, except this time let's put in something, an error here. If we do our calculate button this time, we go in just like we did before. It hasn't cleared any. It did clear these things, but it hasn't cleared this. But we're going to start doing our F11 key, and we'll bring in our escrow amount, which is going to be 70,000. It does that fine. We look at our extra test, which happens to be 99. It does that fine. And now it's getting that interest rate, which is 3. It's going to do that thing, and it's going to bring in the 3. And then the payment is that those R's here. And that's not a double. It's going to try and parse this thing. So when we hit enter, we hit F11 of this thing, you're going to see it jump down to the catch statement right down here. So it dumps down the catch and then applies this message box. So we actually see that happen. So we know that where actually our error occurred. And we pop down, we show the message box, and it's going to pop up on our screen. Please try again. And we get that to enter, and we go through this thing, and we'll get a chance to re-enter this amount and make it work. So that's what debugging does for you. If we examine this and look at this, our debug window is right up in here. And it tells you what you can actually do. Here's our F11 key. It's a step into. We also have a step into over here. We can use this. Our step into is right here. Shift F11. Here it is. One of these guys is F11. Let's see. Let's bring this down. Yes, show next statement. F11. Here it is. Okay, right down here. Here's our step into F11. It's showing up now. And here's our F10, a step over, and our shift of step out. We'll see those when we start using methods as more important. Right now, The common things I use are the F5 for continue, or you can use continue right up here. I use the F11 key to step one line at a time through this thing, and I use the watch keys when I see variables. So I'll go down here and I'll click on a variable, for example, when it's running. It has to be running in order to do this. And then you would actually add the watch, which will create these things. So I don't have to use a lot. The thing I want to do is I want to be able to look at my variables. I want to be able to stop the program where I want it to stop, and then I want to continue when I want to continue, and I want to step through one line at a time. What you can do in these programs, and we can see right here, is we've got a variable sitting right here, a stop right here. We could actually set up another one down here at the last statement. And now we could stop here, but we could allow it to apply through this thing and stop at this line. I'll show you how that really works real quickly. We'll do a continue on this thing and start over. We'll just, here it is coming up, 70,000. Monthly payment of 400. Escrow amount of 99. Interest rate of 3. Hit calculate. It stops where we want it to. Now instead of stepping through it, I'm just going to hit continue or F5. And that'll allow it to finish up all these lines of code and stop here. So I'm going to do that again. I'll hit continue. And bang. It took all those things in and it's stopping here. And you can see that they're all been applied. We've got the 70,000. We're about to do this calculation right down here. Now I can start doing F11 again and step through this. There's a 69,874. So you have a lot of control. Don't be intimidated by it. It looks confusing at first, but believe me, when you have problems in your program, being able to use the F11, the F5 key, and break your program and find out where things are is going to save you tons of time. As I show you more things that we can do with C#, I'll open that debugger on a regular basis as a development tool. When something goes wrong, this tool will help you find out what's wrong quickly. This is a tool you want to use regularly, and it's not hard to use. I find that although I show my students how to use this tool, they tend to not use it until something goes wrong. Then I get a text or an email that they have a problem, and I suggest they set a breakpoint and examine what their program's doing. They do. And 99 times out of 100, they find their own error. This thing is invaluable. What you need to take out of this video is, 1, how do you set a breakpoint? 2, how do you add variables to the watch window? 3, how do you step through the program line by line using that F11 key? 4, how do you continue execution? F5. Try this stuff in your next program. It's easy and it will become your go-to tool when something goes wrong. See you next time. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.